I knew that Randy liked to collect coins. He was always checking his pocket change, looking for older silver pieces, and one day he invited me to look at some of his collection. I was expecting to see a piggy bank. He ushered me to his room solemnly, like a banker leading a client to visit the safety deposit boxes. "Please don't tell anyone what you see," he implored. Randy's room was immaculate. One wall was lined with bookcases, and the shelves contained binders, row upon row of binders. He carefully extracted one and opened it on his desk. Inside were dozens of plastic pages filled with individually mounted coins, each with a date, denomination, and grade of condition. My mouth gaped, my eyes popped, and my mind raced. Randy wasn't merely a coin collector. He was a serious numismatist, sitting on what looked like the contents of Fort Knox. Not bad for a 12-year-old kid. Binder upon binder was opened for inspection, revealing mostly U.S. and Canadian silver, some over 100 years old. Then there were the banknotes. Beautiful, mint condition, in quantities that gave me goosebumps. "I've got the really valuable stuff in a safe," he remarked, without the slightest whiff of brag or snobbery. The mayonnaise jar full of very unremarkable coinage perched on my bedroom desk suddenly seemed quite trivial. It was impossible not to feel a twinge of envy at Randy's riches. Across the creek near our housing estate, excavators dug deeply into the earth to create space for townhouse basements and a large underground parking garage. The piles of earth that resulted were studded with broken bottles and other long-buried trash from 50 years or more of farm occupancy. Our beloved creek was next to succumb to the developer's grand design. Where kids once frolicked on its banks and waded in its shallows to search for frogs and tadpoles, future generations would play on a patch of hard, level asphalt, supplemented with a few pieces of recreational paraphernalia. The once meandering watercourse straightened, constrained by concrete and buried from view. Modern urban civil engineering. Work crews were already digging the creek's new channel, and soon enough, it would cease to exist for us. A temporary diversion ditch was completed just prior to a driving rainstorm. After 2 days of deluge and high winds, Randy and I ventured outside to inspect the muddy, waterlogged construction site. We'd never seen such rain-swollen, raging rapids before, and the newly diverted torrent had quickly eroded its soft earthen banks. By the end of that afternoon, the churning, debris-filled flood had subsided several feet to the point of probably not drowning us if we fell in. We stood at the top of the bank, marveling at how the water had sculpted its features, when something caught our eye. About 20 feet away, only inches above the torrent, a small, disc-shaped object, no bigger than a quarter, sticking partway out of the mud. It froze us for a second before Randy began scrambling down the bank, squirrel-like, to retrieve the artifact. His small, light frame was the only one capable of navigating the slippery, crumbling slope, and even so, he almost tumbled into the rapids. I watched as he plucked it from the mud and climbed slowly back up the bank to show me what the flood had revealed. A coin. The young numismatist opened his palm and smiled like a pirate. It was a strange, chestnut brown coin, in almost perfect condition, unbent, virtually unworn, with only a slight nick on its rim. A primitively rendered pine tree decorated one face, while the date unmistakably inscribed the obverse, 1652. We could make out the words New England and an odd spelling for Massachusetts. Could it really be what it appeared to be? An American colonial coin over 300 years old? Randy was speechless, but he couldn't stop grinning. On our trek home, he finally squeaked out, "Wait till my folks see this." My head was still spinning as I walked into the house and prepared to recount the story to my parents. We'd unearthed buried treasure. Well, maybe. If it wasn't a fake, or some 17th century token that everyone had hundreds of back in the day. Yet I suspected it really was special, if not enormously valuable. Randy was an expert, and he was sure elated. Something continued to nag at me, an uncomfortable sense that bragging about our find might generate unintended consequences. But what? I pondered a bit longer before realizing that my mom would probably ask why Randy had the coin and not me. If we both saw it at the same time, then it should be shared, even though Randy was the one who actually recovered it from the mud. I was only a kid, but I knew my mother had a jealous streak. She'd lost friends and even close family relations over the years due to envy and hurt feelings. Did I want to jeopardize my friendship with Randy by inadvertently getting my mom involved? Definitely not. Finally, there was the issue of Randy's privacy. The coin was his, fair and square, and if he wanted to tell the world about it, or not, then so be it. Not me and my parents. His coin collection was a secret he guarded very closely. I couldn't betray it. So when my mom asked me where I'd been, I felt no qualms saying, "Oh, just down by the creek with Randy." It would remain our secret, and it actually felt good knowing something special that almost nobody else did. As I lay on my bed at night, I couldn't help wondering how a coin from New England had ended up buried under 8 feet of earth along the western shore of Lake Ontario from 1652. How long did it take from that date to arrive at its resting place? Did a traveler drop it on a trail or at a campsite? Was the coin traded to some native tribe who passed it along to others in barter? For over 300 years, lost and forgotten. What was Burlington like back then? Did native children play by the creek and hunt for tadpoles like we did? Myself and Randy had been amongst the final cohort of kids to enjoy its simple pleasures. For how many centuries or millennia had the water flowed lazily, surrounded by nature's beauty? We had watched it suddenly torn up, scraped away, and eradicated. And nobody mourned. Nobody but the kids who'd loved it. In its death, the creek had gifted to us a final treasure.